sacred place where we discuss all things of Earth and outer space, where we divine to pass the time, and no one can put us down or in our place. Grab your tea leaves or your spirits and gather around. The embers are glowing, warm flames abound. The hallowed hearth welcomes you now.
For months, we have gathered around the hearth fire, looking down into the roots of earthly folklore, old graves, and human history. But tonight, we step outside the cabin. We turn our faces away from the flames and we look up, because the woods aren't the only places where secrets hide in the dark. July is officially UFO and Alien Month on the hallowed hearth. Joining me as ever are my celestial sisters, Rachel Ravensvale. Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
And Haley Hansen. Hello, hello. Before the mothership lands tonight, we have an exclusive piece of earthbound terror to unveil. Fresh off his massive kickoff to our Authors Month, the brilliant A.G. Mock is back in the circle to exclusively debut the jaw-dropping cover art for his highly anticipated new novel. A.G., welcome back.
Yay.
We missed you. Ooh, it looks like we're muted.
Oh, yeah, I think you're muted.
Happens all the time.
Oh, well, that wasn't a good start. Wah, wah. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
We can.
Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
AT&T commercial. Anyway, hello. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So tell everybody why you're here.
So my new thriller, number 6, comes out this September 22nd. It is inspired by, it's not the story of, but it's inspired by Little Red Cap, which we all know as Little Red Riding Hood, by the Brothers Grimm. I just took inspiration from that. There's something very menacing about that story, and the innocence of youth, and the big bad wolf, and the grandmother, and it just resonated with me. So I took that inspiration and ran with it. And you'll recall there's a moment whenever Red goes to see Grandma, right? And she has bread and wine and a pie, and the wolf has already killed the grandmother. And she says, "My granny, what big eyes you have." And he says, "As grandmother in disguise, the better to see you with." And such a great line that we all know. So the title of the book is "What Big Lies You Have," and the subtitle is "The Better to Deceive You With." So What Big Lies You Have comes out September 22nd. And for the first time ever, I decided, and it was scary and exciting and exhilarating all at once, that I would let my readers and fans choose the cover.
Which was so much fun.
I know,
That was great.
Because like I'm going to stick to whatever they say, and like your nose, right? Because I had my favorite, but I gave them 2 options. There was an option A and B. And one of those 2 options absolutely sailed way ahead of the other. It was about a 2-to-1 ratio, which was really surprising. I thought it'd be closer than that. After that point, I did get some feedback though, and a lot of the people said it was very close, and they liked one of the other covers as well, but like the one that was getting all the heat, basically just nipped it a little bit, like by just like a hair. But they loved the other cover too, and they were giving me feedback. So I actually did something unique, and we went back and created a 3rd cover, so cover option C. So the winner of round 1 then went against round 2, cover C. And that one was a lot closer, but there was still a very clear winner. So the fans, the readers have spoken. It is what it is. This is the cover. And if I think you have a graphic, if you're ready, drum roll. There we go. And there it is. It's the blue with the white lettering. And I love that cover anyway. I liked all three of them, but this one really got a lot of compliments. We have
Yes.
Rosie, her name is, in the crimson hooded shawl, walking away from us into the woods, and it's something very emotive about that. Just that whole
So
vibe. You can't see her face. She's just walking away. You know that she's walking into danger. You know that she doesn't know it. I just love all the like emotion that comes up. Oh, there you go. That's even better. That's the paperback.
Yeah, there's the bigger static version.
I didn't notice the
I
eye.
don't know. Do you have the hardcover and the Kindle, or I didn't know.
Yeah, you notice the eyes now, really.
Yeah, and then you'll see that there's actually a woman's face behind. There you go. You'll see there's a woman's face behind Rosie in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
To her, and the lips down below. I'm not going to tell you who, but there's something very
eye right there.
foreboding about that whole image, that there's a young girl and there's an older woman, and we'll just leave it at that. But the readers have spoken. That's the new official cover. So you've heard it here first. Everyone's seen it here first. I hope people love it. I know at least 60% of the audience adored it. Hopefully the other 40% who chose the other one still like this one too, because they were very similar.
Yeah, both of them are great.
Oh, thank you. So I'm excited, and I've got some more good news. The pre-orders for the Kindle are now live. So as we speak, you can go pre-order your Kindle. That means that literally at 12:01 midnight on September 22nd, if you pre-order it now, it'll just drop onto your device automatically. You won't have to do anything. You'll wake up and your book will be waiting there for you. So it's real. I'll tell you one thing is super critical when you're an author. As soon as the book goes live for pre-order, it's critical that people hit it with a lot of attention, because Amazon algorithm will see that. And when Amazon's algorithm sees that there's interest, it starts to present it higher in the ranks and show it to more potential readers, just like the ones who are buying. Because, it has all that information. It knows the other books that you liked. So it will then show it to other readers who have a similar taste. So if someone's watching and they're interested in pre-ordering, it's $5.99. It's also in the Kindle Unlimited program. So you can, if you have KU, you can just go ahead and add it to your KU queue, and you'll be able to read it for free. So $5.99 to buy the Kindle and own it forever, or you can have it for free on Kindle Unlimited. But guys, please do it now. I would love you forever if you help me go up in the algorithm. And then next week, the paperback in about 5 days will also be available.
Wow.
Well, and
for pre-order.
Yes, for pre-order, absolutely. Well, and to kind of whet your guys' appetite for the new book, AG and I are working together next Wednesday over on my channel, Katy Lynn Wolf, just like it looks on your screen. And I am going to read the first chapter. So you guys are going to get, if you're watching tonight, you will know about this. So join us next Wednesday night to read that first chapter. And we'll be sharing at least a little bit of that with you guys all here next Thursday, if not the full first chapter. Yeah, we want to get you guys kind of really excited about this. We want everybody to buy this book, get it pre-ordered. So you don't even have to remember.
It's going to be such an exclusive. We've never done this before. Katy, I've never had anyone read or even look at portions of the book before prior to publication, except for a small handful of ARC readers, which are the advanced reader copies. They go out to like influencers and a select group of readers. But other than that, no one's ever heard it. This is going public. Anyone in the world can come and listen. And it's not on this channel necessarily, but on your Katy, it's here on YouTube on your Katy Lynn Wolf channel, your own podcast, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And it is such an honor for me. Oh my God. I'm so excited. We've had lots of new authors on the other channel, and you guys seem to love it. You love when I read stuff from people that are living now. So we are going to.
We love our living people.
Everybody loves
the classics, but
there's, there's just something so wonderful about being able to reach out to that author and tell them how wonderful their work is and how much it has touched your life or changed your life that we don't get to do with Poe or Stoker or all of these. that have influenced us.
Yes, you deserve your flowers while we have you.
Oh,
Absolutely.
this is sweet. I'm so excited. I hope everyone will search you, and they just go in the YouTube search bar, correct? And just type in Katy Lynn Wolf, and they'll find you. Is that right?
Yeah, and we'll put some links over on the Hearth Facebook and whatnot, so people can check you and me out together. There's a lot of stuff coming up with the Hearth and AG here in the future.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Rachel, real quick, why don't you tell everybody kind of what you guys have been talking about?
So we've been talking with AG about him being a part of the Hallowed Hearth a little bit more, and he agreed to be our Hearthside author, if I can say
Woo!
it. Tongue twist.
What an honor! That's so cool.
So that means a lot more. You guys get a lot more one-on-one time with AG, and some great things to come. We'll start teasing out some of those. But him being on Katy podcast and getting to read that first chapter, that's just one of those cool things that are going to happen. So stay tuned.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Well, I'm so honored, guys. Haley, Katy, Rachel, thank you.
Well.
I love all three of you. I know you have other guests coming, so I'm not going to take any more time, but I really appreciate that you were the medium for the official first release. I am going on to Facebook Live on my own account in about 15 minutes, and I'm going to do a second reveal to everyone else who hasn't been able to make it here. But again, What Big Lies You Have, September 22nd. Pre-order Kindle and Kindle Unlimited right now. Go ahead and get it. It's $5.99 to buy and own forever. It's free on Kindle Unlimited. And then in about 5 days, the paperback will also be available for pre-order. And the paperback is gorgeous. I can't tell you too much about it, but there's more than just the cover. There's some stuff going on as soon as you open up the inside cover as well. And I've never had that on any of my books. This one's different. So I think you guys are going to love it. So thank you. I hope you have a great show, and I will see you guys next week.
Thanks, AG.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Well, now.
Amazing.
We have another otherworldly guest.
I know. From exclusive literary horrors to the deep cosmic unknown, the circle is officially open. Keep your eyes on the stars, unlock your doors. Tonight, the skies are answering back.
Woohoo.
And our guest tonight, wow. So who wants to introduce him? Because I'm starstruck. Never mind the pun.
I don't want you.
Go for Rachel.
Go.
So it's the one and only Jesse Marcel. Third, he is the grandson of Major Jesse Marcel, who was there when the Roswell incident happened, or the aftermath of it, I should say. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's such an honor.
Thank you. You guys gave me, this is the best introduction I've ever had. Anyway.
You're so cool. Oh my gosh. I'm freaking out.
I'm actually kind of interested, about your channel, in which I've published books before and that kind of thing, but I've never done the route. And I actually learned a lot by listening to your last part. I've never actually gone that road, but I'll have, so like everybody else, everybody has a good couple of books in them and that kind of thing. So maybe, who knows, scratching out things now and then and put on the shelf, and a year later you go back to it. And anyway, it's all fun.
Yeah, it is.
We love our creators on the show, and we can't wait to discuss all of the cool things you've got going on. You've got your feet in a lot of different areas that are really cool.
I do. I mean, with the age of what's happening now, and it's enlightening. I've always believed at the basis of everything is an intelligent universe.
Yes.
And what I can gather from your show and that kind of thing, I always look at that it's an interesting slice of that. and how do we all play out in that, and what is, I have a belief in the idea that as an intelligent universe, the universe itself wants to be able to experience things in different ways, and that's kind of the reason we're here, is we're experiencing things for the universe. We were created, we are existing, obviously, and that our form here is simply just that, is that we were intentional, and from the universe, and it's just kind of a fun place to be. It's like, growing up with the Roswell and the UFO, and the open mindset that comes along with that. Then you kind of grow up realizing that that's common, around the dinner table talk about aliens and the universe and that kind of thing. As a small child, you kind of grew up and were bathed in this idea of a limitless, possibilities. The universe, how does it work? What our connections are, what the realities and the lack thereof. The way we interpret reality is the way we flesh them out, we create them. Those kind of things were fascinating. My background is more in a science area, and it dovetails nicely into this area. But as you grow older, you kind of start adopting things that were, maybe as a child I thought, you guys are just, that's crazy. And then pretty soon you're like, well, maybe it's not that crazy. In fact, it's crazier to say that that's not a possibility than a possibility. So anyway, I'm just blabbing on here. So,
awesome. We're taking it all in.
How can I help? What can I say?
I wanted to have you kind of just explain a little bit about how your family is connected, like, to the Roswell incident, for those who may not know.
Sure. At kind of a high level, my grandfather was the head of intelligence for the 509th Bombing Group back in July of 1947. And something crashed in the desert out there, out of Corona, and they couldn't identify what it was. The local police, that kind of thing, a rancher brought it in. They looked at it, and his boss just said, "Hey, go take a look at this stuff." So he was just he went out there in a Jeep, or he didn't swim in a Jeep, in his car, and then kind of a disinformation officer also went out there with him, and they went and looked at the debris on the ground and some interesting things. And his assumption, or he looked at it and thought, well, this is not made by human hands. And that saying's kind of rung out through a lot of different things. But so he was directly tied with it. He thought, he was a high level military gentleman. He head of intelligence during the Second World War. He was a big part of the intelligence arena in that area. So the military and silence was very important. I mean, you had to keep secrets, but this secret was too big for him not to share with his family. So he basically sent the government worker basically home, and he gathered up a small box of some of the debris and brought it back to his house, which was in Roswell. And that was where my father was, about 11 years old, and my grandmother, a VO, wonderful lady. And he came home, spread the stuff out on the floor in the kitchen, and went and woke them up and said, "Hey guys, you got to take a look at this. What is it?" And then my grandmother, as the story goes, as I was told it anyway, was that, why did you make a mess in my kitchen? That kind of thing. And my grandfather, my dad, talked about how, it was all laid out. He says, "Do you guys look at this stuff closely? Do you see anything here that's interesting, like any kind of technology, wires, tubes, those kind of things, or parts that could be tubes?" Because that was the technology back in the 40s. Kind of predated a lot of transition, that kind of thing. And they couldn't really puzzle it together, but they made some assumptions. And one thing that was kind of interesting is my father, again, 11-year-old child, was like a beam. There's a bunch of broken off beams, brought it over the kitchen, kitchen light over the sink. And you notice if you hung it or looked at it kind of an angle, you almost had like a hologram, or these symbols came out of it. And that's actually what most of my interest it was in the symbols I've been looking at for decades now. But it was interesting, a kind of funny anecdote. My father asked his father, Jesse, and said, "Hey, what do you think it means?" And my grandfather says, "I have no idea. I think you're looking at the first human to look at an alien language." It's kind of cool. And he says, "Maybe it's how to use the onboard bathroom." I have no idea. And my grandfather was kind of fun, kind of fun gentleman. But that's kind of where it grew. And then again, he took a big chance by bringing the show to his family. He broke pretty much every rule in the book to do that. Went back to the base and with that debris, and then was involved in more and more investigations, and then a kind of a larger one that you could see him holding some tinfoil and rawing targets and kind of famous pictures and stuff out there. But we grew up with it. It was kind of introduced to us, which I'm a big sci-fi nut. We're sitting around the table. I was going to tell the same story as like we're watching Star Trek, the original series, and my dad says there's something to this, and so now this is this is science fiction, it's fake, but there is something to life in the universe, and that's kind of how I learned about it. Each of our there's three of us, three kids. We all kind of learn about it differently, but that's the one that stands out the most to me. Um, I was lucky enough, and we were lucky enough as kids to spend time. We lived in Montana, and we went to Houma, Louisiana, where they live at that point, and visited during the summers. And there was a bayou behind their house, and I was able to go fishing with my grandfather. So I kind of got inside or his thoughts on all this kind of thing. And but it's an interesting story. It's like, well, do you believe in it? The biggest thing I can say is I know they believed in it, and they were very close to it. You couldn't be any closer to it than they were, and they went through their life. My grandfather, a lot of people kind of said, it was horrible what he went through. He was a scapegoat, this kind of thing for it. But at the end of his life, he just thought, how lucky was I? Out of all the people on earth, that I was the one that was chosen to go out there. So I take it, not everyone in my family feels that way. They feel like it's different. But that last communication I had with them was more along the lines of he just thought that it was amazing that he was that person on it. So, and my father, we grew up. He was always looking at the stars, and he was military man himself and a doctor. Built a telescope. We had some acreage out in Montana, and always looking up the stars, always just never lost the fascination, and always brought groups of kids from schools in so they could talk about the universe and all that kind of thing. So, and my father, I mean, again, till their dying days, it was always that it wasn't with Roswell was real or not. It was like, they looked at it differently. I shouldn't say my grandfather, my father looked at it differently. And a lot of people do. And they did this disclosure also going out there. It's like, it doesn't mean a lot to me. It's like, from where I sit, it's like, you don't need to prove to me something. Like the last thing I do is look for our government to tell me Roswell was real. Well, yeah, I know that, whatever. But people look for that proof, that disclosure, those. And I've been on, these fun things talking in front of, different Congress people and, giving the spiel and all that kind of thing. And it's interesting and fun. Honestly, we're growing up in this, that I found the most interest in is, there's all this story. But I remember when I was talking in front of half a dozen Congress people, and I didn't talk about UFOs. I talked about how I went fishing with my grandfather, and he pulled these poles down from a roof, and he was missing a digit in his finger of his hand from a table saw. And that, as a child, that fascinated me and scared me. We actually talked about the personalities involved, and that to me is just as interesting as the story. I mean, again, you're close to it, like I'm close to it, so it's like, I've heard it. A lot of people heard it a lot of times. Believe me, I've heard it more. But it's just part of your life, and it's evolved. The world is in my opinion, take it or leave it, is that we live in a much friendlier world than we did 30 years ago. Much friendlier. People are more open. People are my kids. I mean, their generation is respectful. They'll hold the door open for you, whatever, they grew up, that. But it's a different world, and it's a friendlier world. And I have a book out there. It's published like 6 years ago or something like that, at least 6 years ago now. And you always wonder what's going to happen when they see your family's involved in Roswell. What's going to happen? But it was the opposite. I ended up by signing books for the teachers. Kids were banging on the window as they came out of school. Hey, did you see Independence Day come out? They talked about Roswell. I mean, just this all fun way to look at it, not scared. I really don't buy into any of the stuff that we don't have the ability to, understand or be comfortable with the idea of life in the universe. I've never seen it from anybody that's scared of this kind of thing. I think it's kind of it's folklore that's kind of had its time. It's like there's fascination. When somebody talks to in one of my companies or in business, I kind of someone once in a while recognize my name for Roswell, and we talk about it, and it's almost resounding like, well, yeah, with everything going on, of course we believe what happened, that kind of thing. So
yeah, I totally agree. I think with social media, the way it is that there's such open conversations about anything and everything out there, we really are I feel blessed to be in this time period where we can gather together. None of us have ever met face to face, but we can talk about these things, and there's no fear, there's no hatred involved. If someone pops in and they got something nasty to say, who cares? We're in good company, at least.
yeah,
No one here is going to be mean to you. And we have open conversations about things that people have been afraid to talk about for a really, really long time. But we're destigmatizing things. There's no need to be afraid of discussing what happened as a factual capacity and to explore what ifs. We don't have the answers to everything, but we can certainly ask the questions.
I agree. It's like we're all in a big living room now. It's like we all can share. I'm lucky. I mean, I don't really have. I once in a while I've had death threats, but I guess I've had a couple people say something bad. But there's just every so often you have just somebody's a little bit, something's not quite right. But for the most part, everybody's been ultra friendly, and some of the friendliest people are like, I don't believe anything about Roswell.
Right.
No way. I say, well, great. Well, let's sit down and talk or have. But it doesn't matter. It's like great. Everybody has an opinion, which you're welcome to it. And I'm not. You can't be 100% sure about anything. I believe it was part something. Yes, absolutely. Is it possible something else? Of course. It's one of those things. It's a better and happier, more comfortable world where you just realize that everything's possible, and some of it's just who knows.
What's really memorable to me too is I remember seeing like I think it was part of a documentary that your grandfather did, in his later years of life, and he really insisted that he was looking at something unlike anything he had ever encountered here or during his military career. And so I wondered, if he ever talked about what convinced him that it was different and something that he had never crossed paths with before.
With him, there's two sides of the story. The crash debris and aliens. And the crash debris is where he said this wasn't made by human hands. At that point, that was one of the earlier things. And it was just the way it reacted, the featherweight, very strong. You couldn't burn it, you couldn't cut it, you couldn't do all these different things. The way it was strawn out, the amount of material that was there. He looked at it and said, "This is definitely not an airplane. This isn't like a satellite or whatever it would be." It didn't.
It wasn't a weather balloon, right? Because that's the story.
It's so funny is because as the topic goes. Of course, in Roswell, they're at that time everything's held in hard copy, et cetera. There wasn't such digital copies at that point, of course. And the other file cabinets, and between June 15th and August 15th, those couple of file cabinets burnt up. Unfortunately, all the records are gone, right? But my grandfather was very fastidious, and he kept all the records, kept everything. So we have everything, So it's the government. It was destroyed. No, it still exists. And one of those documents is his. He went through radar training school, and which involved the weather balloons and Rowan target, the whole thing. So he knew exactly what this was, So
and what it wasn't.
Yeah. Exactly what it wasn't. But no, he had a very clear and honestly, he was the most pointed as far as this is what it is. It was never, well, this could be it. It was which is interesting. It's like. But he went through his life with that. He did spend, if you want to talk about the conspiracy side, he was fearful, not of his own life at that point with the grandkids, but about saying too much and having somebody harass us to get information or something like that. So he was very conscious about that kind of thing. But, internally, our family are, really open and comfortable talking about it. And, so again, it was just part of our life. But it was funny, it's like growing up in this, it's like you always assume that everybody talks about this stuff. Only later do you realize that
you do in my house.
It's just
we didn't mind too, so.
And it's like like I said, I think everything is connected in some way or another. The projects that I work on, it seems like one thing is affecting something else, it affects something else, but it's interesting, and with new discoveries, new science, and the way quantum realities change, and how now we can, even looks like we can affect our past, which is pretty strange. Just there's so many things that it brings it beyond an idea into like, well, there is science behind that idea. And it's all, and it's like we mentioned, if you don't mind bringing like a tarot card. My wife's really into tarot cards. She gets her and her friends go out and get readings every year at the ocean. They'll go out there. I never have. And it's always this idea that, and I believe that it's all, everybody has ability to communicate in some way they don't think they can, and receive in ways they don't think they can. And it's just how you're willing to look at the universe, how you're willing to people around you, whatever. Is like, the more open you are to things around you, it's like the more you'll discover, the more things affect you. And honestly, in a way, the more I don't know, happy, the more fulfilled I do. I don't really go along with a lot of the people that are my age that went through like in high school and all these different things. I'm thinking, it's just their life has gone a completely different direction, and I feel like mine's only opening up more and more every day, and I love it. I mean, I couldn't be happier. So, but I've fantastic family life, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, has come of it. So I have a lot to be happy about.
I love that. That's awesome.
I know I have the question. Or did you want to ask one, Haley?
You go ahead. You got one queued up.
I was gonna say, I know that like I know within every family it kind of has stories that are passed down through the generations, but like, that might be like granddad did this or grandma did this, but yours family's story has kind of carried the weight of one of the most like history's greatest mysteries, right? Is their life outside of this planet. So when did you first realize that your grandfather wasn't simply telling a remarkable story, but he was safeguarding something that could change how humanity views its place in the whole entire universe?
It's a good question. I think, growing up with it, I didn't realize the enormity of it at all. I absolutely subscribe to it. I mean, my grandfather, my father, they're saying the same thing. They both looked at the same thing. When we camped out all the time looking at the stars. It was a very comfortable, it was one of those things that I didn't realize it wasn't just an accepted part of life, that there's other life out there. Like I'd eat dinner and I'd be having dinner and I'd think about another family on another planet and another who knows where, doing the same thing with their family and enjoying the night. It was always just a very comfortable. I don't, I know some people like the more idea of that, these whatever's out there could be vicious, which it could be, or want to do this or that or the other. But when you start getting down to the point where you get technology that can get you to the point of going from somewhere much further, farther away to here, you've overcome the need for resources and the need for this. Now it all kind of falls apart if you start following that line down that way. Not that, there obviously you never know absolutely. Of course you can't know. But I always have this very peaceful view of the universe, a very content, very loving, I think it's what makes us the best we are is all of everything around us. So I like I said, again, back to the enormity, it's like, it is, but I also, it's like as your thoughts evolve, as you experience more things or whatever have you, you get more and more comfortable with the idea of it's almost like it's obviously very vast, it's enormous, but if we want to go down the idea of dimensional ideas of how we exist in 3 dimensions. What does it mean to be a 4th dimension? What does it mean to be in a place where time doesn't exist? If time doesn't exist, you can be at every point in the universe at the same time. There's distance means nothing. And when you start looking at things like that, it's, yes, to us, it appears like it's enormous. But I subscribe to the idea that there's an infinite number of universes and that we exist. I love one of the things that it's kind of my favorite, because it's not that it's absolutely true or not true, is the idea that the example is there's only one electron in the universe, it travels through me and you and everything in the universe because it's massless, so it travels at the speed of light. So can be literally be at every point in the universe at one time, or through a point in the universe all at one time, which means whatever energy is going through me is going through all the three of you all the time. So is that, and maybe that's a simplified way to look at it, because we don't understand all the energies and that kind of thing in the universe. But I have to think that people are connected. This show is by no accident. This has been set up from forever ago, and tonight's when it came together. And I really believe that that's the way everything works, and it was supposed to happen this way for whatever reason. We might never know, but that idea of all coming together and that shared relationship we have with us and everything in the universe is all there. And it's whether we choose to accept that or not that gives us a comfort level. And I'll tell you, I'm in a place where I'm very comfortable. So
I love that.
Maybe you pick this little life being right here.
You got the little green man. The little green man.
Oh, I can't help it. I love I make these. I love to keep my little beastie babies nearby during our episodes. And this one has not been on the show before, so I felt like an appropriate episode.
It was appropriate.
Right? Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. This is so fun.
I know.
It's not to hijack for a second, but one of the things that stood out to me in the story is, like you said, that there was these glyphs that were just otherworldly and no known language. And I personally am an experiencer. I saw a UFO in my teenage years with my mom. We both saw it, and it was over our car. We saw it through the sunroof, and there were glyphs all under the bottom of it. It seemed like it was the size of a football field. And when I was looking up and trying to take in every detail, it was the coolest thing ever. But when you see something like that, it does alter your view on reality, because I'm like, this is not ours. Those aren't any I like studying other cultures. I'm very familiar with a lot of different languages out there. I'm like, this is not from us. So it's cool that stuff like that was hidden is able to be spoken about freely now, because it does validate people who go through these experiences. I mean, if I didn't have my mom there, I would have thought I was totally crazy. But there's cool stuff out there, and hopefully we'll get to have more encounters face to face with it the more we advance as a people, the more open-minded we are to it.
Like the glyphs, I mean, the closest thing, which might, it could be completely wrong, but they really look like electron clouds. Wow. And when you look at it that way, then maybe this language, whatever it is a common thing throughout the universe of an advanced society. And it has more to do with, whatever there is. I mean, I always thought it'd be kind of fascinating that what if this language is created and it's actually a map. So whatever the reason it didn't read without it, but as it's getting there, it creates itself as it goes along, and it ends up being some kind of a roadmap to wherever it came from, or some information, or something that there's some significance in those symbols. They'd be recognized by a lot of other civilizations throughout the universe. They have some meaning of some kind. So I was looked at it that way, and then it's part of the reason I'm just fascinated.
I love that.
I know that Haley, you talk about like being part of the C5, and I know that you guys try to use your consciousness to kind of contact them. Do you believe that that's possible, Jesse?
I believe absolutely that, like we were talking about my little project, is that it is in the right mindset. It's all there. It's the distance between you and something else is right here. It's not like you're having to, cover vast distances and come through. I think it's everywhere, and it's just a matter of you connecting with that. And I think I think your willingness to connect with it, just like the universe. I think that, you can become well versed in something you never thought you could be. You might become more intelligent. You might become whatever it is. That's a gift being given to you by the universe for whatever reason, and that gift might be ability to communicate, ability to understand something else that nobody else does. And I think that that's the truest meaning, and that's just, you just have to be open to all these things. And obviously, it's almost cliche because a lot of people believe that, but I mean that is how I believe it, and it's affected me, and it's affecting more at this point than ever before in a lot of ways. So,
anytime you want to join us for CE5, hit me up because that would be so cool. We have some of the members in the chat right now, so thank you, Melinda and Jonathan, for joining us. We have so many wonderful people checking in because we've had so much excitement, particularly for you to join us tonight. And I totally agree. I've seen the abilities of people open up the more comfortable you grow with communicating with these people, and you have this strength and bond the more you are open to saying something that might feel a little weird, but it's an experience that you went through, and when you have other people validating it, there's a strength and a love that grows there, and you do end up finding other cool people that are on that wavelength for sure. So
it is, and like you go, again, it's been quite some time that I've gone and done speaking, that kind of thing, but I always thought it was fascinating. There's one I'll never forget. My wife was more involved at that point. We were at Joshua Tree.
Oh yeah.
A lady came up, and I wish I could remember. She gave us a book, and it's like I feel awful. I mean, it's been quite a while, but and she just says that you have a very important part in the future of humanity, and you don't realize it yet, but you really do. And I know that. And you're looking, oh well, okay, this is interesting. I have no idea, but it looks like there could be some truth to that with any of us. But it's fascinating that some people, again, was she just not there, or was she actually in communication with something? And that's that idea of in a simple sense, things happen for reasons. But again, I believe that at every point, whatever brought us here to get together today, and tomorrow and yesterday, and that whatever we're talking about today was meant to be talked about before we were here. It's one continuum. There isn't a beginning. There's no end. It's all exists and all at the same time. It's just we're choosing to look at this slice right now where we're at. So,
and it's a good
time is a completely human constructed thing, right? It's not linear. Don't believe that it is. I believe that it's more, if anything, circular.
Yes, but science would say that that there is. I like something as a very simple way to look at it. You're a book on a table, has all the pages. You might be open to one page, but all the pages still exist, and all exist at the same time. And that's kind of a way to look at existence. Is it's a book that's already every part's existed forever. And you get into these, some of these people, the Hawkings, they had ideas about conserving information around a black hole, where space-time gets squeezed down to 2 dimensions, and you can have an infinite amount of anyway, blah blah blah. But there's some of those concepts they're very simplistic, and they might solve the problem. Usually, it's probably a little more than that, but it's fascinating. I was looking at someone had a theory that we actually exist inside of a black hole, and that's we have black holes, and there's universe, and it's a very it's a very beautiful idea about how that could work in our universe. And it kind of makes sense, and how far we look out in the universe. We're only looking to the inside of this black hole that we exist in. Possibly, it's a fascinating idea, but like I said, when you get to the point that vastness is that it's infinite. There is, we will understand as much as we want to. I've never subscribed to a beginning, a lack of where we didn't exist in some form, in a place where we don't exist. I'm one of those, what do they call them? An NDE, near-death experience myself from a bad time, and a couple times in the same thing. And I experienced all that, flatlined, all that kind of thing, but I never lost my connection. And the strongest connection that was actually amplified overall, I was a bad car accident. All the pain that kind of left was that emotional connection. The people in the room, the emotions they were going through. That's what I stay connected with more than anything, when my eyes and ears and weren't supposed to be receiving any information. So it's fascinating. And maybe that's just part of another thing, is it allowed me to be more open. It's like when you experience those kind of things, it's like you know, again, the science behind it would say, well, yeah, I mean, there's no way you could have done that. But I repeated a conversation in the room when I shouldn't have been able to, and it was, and the person went in tears. Um,
So cool.
so, you know, it's like there's far more that we don't know than we do know.
Yeah.
So again, you know, it's one of those things, and then and being through that in line with everything else, that even, you know, broadens your mind even further, and you kind of, so now you're maybe more in connection with that than I was before. You know, the supposedly the other side, whatever you want to call it, and it's just it teaches you more and more about the openness and the love in the universe and the emotion, and it's everywhere, and that's the best part of us. And the more we embrace that, the better we are, and honestly, the happier we are. And I think these poor souls that are angry at everything all the time, it's like you just don't, you know. I feel bad. It's like you don't realize what you're giving up by holding on to something that's so insignificant, you know, at the end of the day. But
It is.
philosophy.
That's perfect.
Maybe one of the things you're meant to do is go on the CE5. Everybody's in. You're welcome. Come join us.
No, it would be a full circle moment to get to talk to the ETs, maybe the ones that were at the Roswell incident. We, like you said, we in our group, we do believe in the philosophy that time is cyclical, essentially, and that you are able to remote view in the past and in the future. But yeah, that would be really cool to explore. I would love that. And it's evident from the chat that everyone else thinks the same thing. You're very, very welcome here.
There is that, you know, like back to the Roswell stuff. I don't want to cut you off at all.
No, you're fine.
There was always this theory about, you know, was there transmutable, immutable information passed in our family from being such, and it's kind of like, well, as the person, I'd say I have no idea. I don't feel any different. But you know, is it purely informational, or was, because there was a sense that my grandfather had with this whole thing that was beyond somebody else. It wasn't that directly related to it or that close to it, and I think that's part of the idea, is that, you know, was there some kind of you know, communication, some kind of a feeling, some kind of something that was being transferred from all that while it was happening. I mean, I personally have kind of a different view of Roswell than most people do, that I've become very comfortable with. But it is interesting, and it's basically that, you know, through him, and part of my life is going. I really believe in, you know, the longevity aspect. One of the biggest industries, unfortunately, this industry right now is the idea of living longer than your you know, descendants, that kind of thing, and that because of science and everything else that's included. But that plays a big part in Roswell, and it plays a big part in a lot of other things. Like my grandfather believed that whatever these were lived forever. They crossed the boundary. They were immortal beings. My grandfather, or my father, believed that whatever they were a combination of some kind of a biological and mental, you know, some kind of, like, you know, the idea, and then the idea that aging is purely you know, it's a disease. It's not something that can't be conquered. And you bring the idea of what does it mean? You know, we had this impact. Obviously, I mean, it's just one of many stories. But when you look at it that way, if you've conquered immortality, you've gotten to the point of your biology. You know, it's not going to say if you get run over by a truck, oh, yeah, that, you know, that was a bad time. But you're not going to die from old age, and that means you're going to have population issues, right? You can't have everybody live forever. You'd end up by, you know, you'd run out of resources. So part of the idea is that you have to overcome other things before you can become immortal, and that would be being able to settle other places, just simply because you could not, any single planet could not contain the life, an immortal life, and that creates an absolute need to traverse the universe, to traverse other planets, to traverse whatever within your galaxy, within your solar system, whatever that is. And so things happen for certain reasons, and maybe, you know, the idea, which is kind of one of my partners was talking, business partners were talking about it. It's like, you know, it's still super advanced. How did it crash? You know, it's like something so advanced, like, well, our ultimate techs crash all the time, but of course, this is thousands of years of future. But kind of the idea is, well, I think it was meant to. It was a beacon. It was information that was given to us, and we've gained information from that in a lot of ways. I hear a lot of people talking about things that I don't think were exactly true, but they believe in true. So I'm not going to say there's anything wrong. But there's a lot of evidence that might have been the sole purpose was to crash here and give us just enough information to open our eyes to the possibility, and that whatever was on this, maybe they weren't an actual living, thinking, conscious being, so to speak. They were a sacrifice to basically to us to get us to the point where if we're going to evolve, we have to go through these steps. And for whatever reasons, I mean, some people say that that obviously we just had a nuclear bomb, so all of a sudden that idea that we had reached a certain level of technology, it we can create a nuclear bomb, and that maybe that happens and that defrays you from continuing that process or whatever it is. But it also opens you up to the infinite, the realm of possibilities, no longer science fiction. And what I love about Roswell is it affected a lot of people, and some of the people who became astronauts were part of this. They end up by being end up being NASA, and then NASA ended up by exploring the star. What a lot of those things all led back to Roswell in a very, very positive way. And yet, there's always the conspiracy, and yes, they, at that time they're fearful, and I think there was a lot of power in whatever this was, and containing it, and not letting it out. And are we going to learn something that we don't want to share with anybody else? So I get that. That's something some of still going on today, of course. But so you got to, if you remove the human frailty from the whole situation, then you start, being again open. Use that word a lot, to the possibilities. And I really. Yeah, I believe that was again a beacon. It was something to set us on a course that we might have always been on since the Egyptians and all in the history, but for whatever reason that was kind of lost. And if you can do a technology where space time no longer affects whatever that is, then getting from one place to another isn't a matter of time as we understand it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Really off my rocker, but it kind of
a little bit.
It was supposed to happen, and that my grandfather was supposed to be the person involved, and I was supposed to be on here talking on your show.
Yeah.
So
no, you brought up some excellent points, and my brain's just going every direction.
I know, same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the idea that you think that this was an intentional, in the moment sacrifice, as you put it, and I think that lends a lot of credence. It really does. Even today in modern military tactics, we have kamikazes and things like that. There's one-way missions. That's always been possibility for a lot of different scenarios, especially when it's something so sensitive. Really leading up to that with Ancient Aliens, there's always been contact as far as human documentation and history is proven, but a lot of what needed to happen, I think, was just to put it in a modern time perspective so that we could say they aren't just stories, because that's what the narrative was. If you think there's aliens, you're crazy. And it's taken how long to get this to be brought in front of Congress before just straight up denial. So the domino effect started at that day, even though it's been a thousands of year process. And the other thing you brought up with longevity, the fact that they would need to traverse and find other areas to live in, that lends credence to things like the hybridization program and things like that. There's a desire to populate other areas, and they might not have the physical capability anymore, but it's something that's deeply ingrained in all animals, is to be fruitful and multiply, essentially.
Right.
Wow.
It does, it's one of those things that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It makes sense.
So it does. It's like, again, it's mind expanding, and it's like, again, it might not be true, but it does. And for a society that does, they're benevolent and they want, life to exist. And there's not saying that, we weren't seeded by something like that. There's, who knows? And they're looking after their grandkids, who knows? But like I said, it all makes sense and it all works out. And as we're evolving in this world, in AI and the advancement of AI and all those models are happening, every other civilization reached where we're at, and they either destroyed themselves or they, made the best of it, kept going on. But now that we have this, AI is primitive today compared to what it'll be tomorrow or compared to the next day. And when we look at the evolutionary cycle, all those processes that can get you closer to, the longevity, those things that allow you to live much longer. Like even now, I mean, I think that if I see somebody's, I'm not quite sure what is DOCO.
Is it a documentary?
Is it, and that's absolutely true. It's like I work out in the gym 6 days a week, and I do everything I can. And you try to eat healthy, not perfect, but you try to live a healthy lifestyle. And it's one of those things. We're blessed with life. It's like there's a certain point where there's no return, and you can't get to the point where you're now degraded to the point where you cannot, you can't live. If you live for the next 5 years, let's say, and I absolutely believe this, those issues of aging are going to be gone. That there's going to be those things that probably not everything, but a lot of things, the chances of living another 50 years are much greater. You just got to be and make the smart choice over the next 5 years. I've talked in front of thousands of people about this, and have people, I've lived long enough. There's no way I want to live any longer. It's like, I kind of love my life. But you get into that pattern. I don't mean to take off in this direction, which I kind of all over the place here. Sorry about that. But I mean, health and just, and it's all up here. It's like, that's the best, like, and again, I'm not saying anything everyone knows, but if you can rewrite your very genetics. Yeah. And if you believe in society, well, okay, I'm 30, I'm this, I'm 40, I'm on this, I'm 50, I'm this, and you are that. If you believe something else, you are that. It's like my little thing is, people think it's funny. My wife just goes along with me, but I mean, my alarm clock is the same one I had when I was a child. I have boom boxes. I have all those things that I loved growing up in around me all the time, because your mind only as old as you tell it is. It doesn't
right.
Time.
It's only a number.
Right. You're only telling it that you're old. And then your mind goes, well, okay, I'm old. So what does that mean? But if you equate your life to that, whatever favorite time in your life, or whatever you liked yourself, maybe it's today, maybe it's 30, whatever it is, but there's no reason why your genetics aren't going to be written to that time period, because your mind believes it doesn't know any different. So it's one of those things that if you can keep your mind, on the idea that you're in love with life, this is a part of life, and you convince your life that you're, I'm not 70, I'm 50, or I'm not whatever, whatever that is. And it's all those different things. And you can be part of that. Like in this car accident, I was in a car accident. I was 19 years old. But I was lucky. I was very healthy, didn't drink, didn't smoke, climb mountains. I was in Montana. That's all I did. And I was told, I went through, I clinically died on the emergency room table, broken back, burnt up, everything you think of, many broken bones. They thought I had massive brain injury. Maybe I did. I don't know. But all these things happened to me. And not once did I think that I wasn't going to make it out of there. It was always, I was going to be back on the basketball court. I was going to be back. I love messing around with cars. I was going to be back to working on a car, whatever. There was never a thought in my mind that I wasn't going to be leaving that place ever. 100%. And I mean, it was bad. They actually had people come in and say goodbye to me. All my friends come in, you're not going to make it. You got to say goodbye to everybody. And I was like, well, I don't really believe that. But I mean, that's the whole idea, is that it's not that some people are more comfortable letting go. They're in a lot of pain. They have a lot of problems. Absolutely nothing is that. But like, unless I'm in that situation, it's like, I will fight like crazy. And part of that is your mindset. Again, I always tell people, just get something from your favorite point of your life, and so your mind remembers it. Like mine's the little Radio Shack clock with a little red, the digital readouts. It's like that every morning I woke up and before high school, I looked over and looked at that. And it's like, it puts you in a very good space. And I, as much as I deal in high tech on everything, I'm very much into the latest, greatest, blah, 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 and creating the latest, greatest, blah, blah, blah. One of my favorite projects, or one of my favorite companies, is a company called Untech It. And that's where you still get the enjoyment of technology, but it's in organic form. You're not spending your life taking pictures of everything. But you're still staying in touch with everybody. It has to do with your family. It's like we go to Disneyland. Go to Disneyland with you and the kids, and everybody has their phones, so everybody stays in touch. But if there's a way to stay in touch, but put all your phones in a locker somewhere and enjoy that. And just it's kind of an idea of how you remove. Like, everybody has this idea. It's like, I'd love to go live in a cabin in the middle of the woods without electricity, no bathrooms. I think it'd probably get, you kind of get too, but can you do that, but still have, still enjoy what we've learned. So it's just an intersection. My opinion is, as we grow further and further into the AI world and that kind of thing, I can tell you about a book that I'm working on about that. The idea is that people are going to learn to hate it more and more as it becomes colder and more, more decisive in your life than you want it to be. And that's
going to crave connection.
Right.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, if COVID taught you anything, it's like, we are not supposed to be separate. I mean, these poor kids that ended up growing in a bad situation, and they didn't have the social upbringing. It's such an important part of their life, and they are paying for it. And it's always the innocence it's innocence in the crowd that always pays for what's going on. And unfortunately, it's part of the thing. We're lucky. It was my generation. My kids actually, which they're very, for whatever reason, they're very super focused on everything they do, and they actually advanced themselves fast through that period. But a lot of the friends fell by the wayside, and then the classes after them were out of control. They just didn't know how to be in those things. So, it's just fascinating. But
we are like social creatures, I think.
Yeah,
we are. It's like,
supposed to be. We crave that, and I think strive for that connection.
It is. It's like you need to be in a situation where, it's like, I don't want to go to a restaurant where I'm talking to a robot. It's like I'll just stay at home, order Amazon, whatever. It's like, you might as well do that. Why do you want, if you're pulling yourself away? And I think that's a big mistake. It's like, that's what makes us, the more we interact with each other, is the more, that's how humanity evolves. And being cut off, and yeah, I mean, of course, it's good that we can communicate this way, but nothing like the old idea of sitting down with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or whatever have you. That is just, you'll get more out of that. Like, I take my water. My daughter would care. She goes to Pepperdine, and she just joined their overseas program in Switzerland, and she did a semester out there. Now she's doing a semester in London. And at first she was really apprehensive, but her being involved in the world and she's actually she's a happier person, because now she's connected with all these different people. And you just would never get that unless you're willing to go out a little bit on the edge and do it. And now she's just, I mean, she's always been, most of my kids are just absolute geniuses, and they're very focused and do great with their lives. But it's just neat to see them where they realize, how important that connection is, and didn't realize that, yeah, you're going to go live. It's a great thing, to live in a castle and learn all this kind of fun stuff. People that they met there, other students there, and everybody, that shared relationship, that shared, whatever it was that brought everybody together. And it's like, she's making friends that she'll have for the rest of her life. It's those, and that you would have never had that on a screen. It would never have happened. So again, it's just, as an example, it's just so important that we, not only communicate like this, but do sit down sometime for any reason. So
I know that it was the big, to get back to, I don't want to get back to Roswell, but kind
of.
Please. But I know it was the big, actually, I think it was yesterday, right? Was when the crash actually happened. So that's like nearly 80 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you think Roswell still is capturing like the imagination of people, unlike any other mystery out there? Is it because something truly extraordinary happened? Or do you believe, like, on some level, humanity recognized that this was an important chapter in their story that has never been really been able to be fully actualized?
I would like to think that it's because whatever happened is still part of us, whether you were actually part of being there or not. And so we have a natural attraction to it for whatever reason. But I think it's a very simple story. It's very easy to identify with, for or against, whatever. But it's just one of those stories. You can't see any sci-fi movie that doesn't make reference to Roswell.
Yeah.
Even cartoons, everything at some points, references. So it's being kept alive on that level. So I think it's part of that. It's just the media has embraced it. It's everything has, like I said, it's always kind of, tongue in cheek. It's kind of fun watching a movie and have them talk about Roswell, those kind of things. And yeah, and it's still around us, even though it's been almost 80 years now. It's still well, like disclosure just came out with with Spielberg. He made a point of pointing out this 79 years ago. Like, it was Roswell, and of course there's more than that. But the whole point is that it's still with us, and it obviously impacts your society. So that's a very interesting question. Is that how come it hasn't been dismissed? I've been involved in other things around the world. Just people look at the Marcel name like we know something. So we'll tell you our story because you're going to know the answer. It's like, well, maybe. Probably not better than anybody else, but so governments that kind of share information with us, which is kind of fun, kind of learn about stuff happening out there. But even all this amazing stuff happening out there, and some truly amazing stories and evidence, but people are more connected with Roswell.
Do you hear a lot of experiencers come to you and say and share their stories?
I did a book tour in Brazil. And I had people coming in from all over, and a lot of them were experiencers in one way or another. And they're still my friends to this day. And this was years ago. And I think what it is, it's that idea that, an experiencer is, to whatever level. For one thing is, whether it's true or not, you absolutely believe it. And there's no reason for me not to believe what you're saying. And it is, I always boil back to simple facts. Like, if we go out there to investigate a civilization, aren't we going to go investigate? Aren't we going to check out what's happening in the society? Aren't we going to learn from them? And are we going to try to avoid contaminating their society in some way? I think that would be a natural cause, and a natural, the Star Trek, whatever they call that. But I mean, I believe that. So it's kind of ridiculous to think that, if you're willing to believe that technology exists, that something can get here, which I believe. And it's like that's the limiting factor. Is if Roswell didn't happen, it's because technology has not allowed it. It's not that there isn't life out there. I absolutely, no question about it. I do believe the technology exists to get here. So, but it's that whole idea that, and yeah, it's very big, and maybe it's just again, it shows up in almost every sci-fi movie, or that this crash, whatever, affected humanity, and it's part of all of us, whether we recognize it or not, and it's going to continue to be part of us. And it brings us to the past and the future. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in their careers today because of Roswell, or something, an offshoot of some kind, or a new way of thinking about things. The idea of that, whatever. There's so many things that came into being. Some of them had nothing to do with Roswell, but they were. What if it's this? Well, okay, let me explore that idea that they didn't think about before, and just because of the event that happened. So.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe some of the wreckage, is taken and given to the private sector for R&D so that they can learn from that technology and advance human civilization?
I think
a lot of people lean towards like fiber optic and all that kind of stuff only came about, and all the transistors and everything kind of came after 1947. A lot of people draw that line in the sand.
I think there's factual part of what you're talking about. That there was debris. It went somewhere. It was being dispersed through through labs, through whether it was military, the private sector, wherever it ended up by dispersing throughout the system. Sorry, my sun's not coming through the shades. I'll try to stay away. But it is fascinating. It's a way of thinking. Like you mentioned, fiber optics. Fiber optics, the idea of passing light through a medium, like the Romans did it through water. They made a light in another room by passing it through water. I mean, that's fiber optics, but it's never really worked. But in the debris, there was a lot of miles of fiber optics that had a coating on it, and it was right after that they figured out that if there was a coating on fiber optics, you could pass information and not just light through it, and that happened right after. Basically all these things, the Army became the Army Air Force. Army Air Force, they separated. Intelligence became a big thing. All these different organizations came right after. It's like some of it's coincidental, or maybe it's all because they realized there's something out there, and we got to think about what we're going to do with all this stuff. So now the impact. I've heard stories. My father has told stories about yeah, I wouldn't believe what they're saying, but you can believe what they're saying. It's like, okay, I don't have enough to make that decision, but I think that at the very least, it got people thinking the right way. That that whatever this was, it went here. If it came here, what powered it? So what physical properties we'd have to think about to get that might not have been thought about before, and that just that simple process has created who knows what technologies. I think it's funny. There's a metal used on golf clubs, expensive, that they're the best dang golf clubs you can buy, and the metal on the tip of those reacts identically to the way the metal in the Roswell UFO crash. Exactly.
That's so cool.
Did some of this come through? I don't know. But so there are elements that way, and it seems like there's a lot of technologies grew right after that. I mean, right after that, within weeks. So it is. I think it's fascinating.
There is something to that
ripple effect for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to take a second and tell us about some of the cool products that you've got?
Okay, sure. Well, I believe and I showed Rachel that earlier. I have an app that came out, and it basically all the symbols that came off the crash. My father had written some down. My grandfather written some down. So I accumulated all of them and put them in and did some studies on it. Figure, well, whatever one of those symbols appeared the most, well, I'm going to call that an E. Just because like in our language, that's the most common. And so I built a language out of it. Okay, what do you do with that? I had some different ideas. I thought, part of the idea is to get your mind in the right frame of mind to think about this stuff. So the app is basically like a talking board, those kind of things that use
I can show it if that's
it. And the idea is that it's not so much what's the value in that. Well, go out in the middle of a dark night somewhere and under the stars and do this, and maybe that's just going to open your mind to the point of something you might not have been before. And yeah, I mean,
I'm thinking it would be great on a paranormal investigation and see if we can actually have spirits or whatever we're communicating with, and see if that will actually talk back, and we can.
Right. It's the same concept. It's the idea that you're going to be guided for answers. Not so much by spirits, but is the spirit the same thing? It could be the exact same thing. Who knows? You're communicating? You're open. Whatever these symbols are, they mean something to somebody. Is that going to be a keyhole? Is that going to be some way that opens that perspective? And then by doing this, now you're opening yourself to something else. Maybe it creates that bridge. Maybe it gets you to think or be more open to something else that you weren't before, or an ability. It's all up to you. It was kind of I've been excited. I used to do. This sounds kind of maybe corny, but I worked at a jewelry company, and we built bracelets, and we put people's names in the symbols on them. And people got wedding ring sets with the symbols on them. I love, I believe disclosure also, and people just love that stuff. That we kind of elevate this into this, and we have it's called Exo Arcade, but a game company or game boards, and just like the original games, but it's been a fun journey. It was more like it was more done for fun, but when you do that, you learn things and that kind of thing. So there's that. This new company is called AI Juicing. I created it a little while ago, about 2 years. We're finally on shelves in the Southwest. That's where we're starting out in Texas. And the whole idea is we're a longevity forward. It's called, our biggest thing is aging is optional. And it's not this energy drink. It has ingredients to show cellular repair, cellular energy, that kind of thing. So so we used a lot of combinations. How do we put things into a drink without it tasting like there's stuff in the drink? So that was a long process. We were able to accomplish that. And just because of the Roswell thing, I like this can is a picture of a UFO, and it's sucking up the emblem. My son actually made this, and then the flavor. It's like it's the citrus explosion Roswell anomaly, and it has my signature on it. But so it's just a fun project. I'm really big into sports cars and racing. So it's like, okay, I'm going to develop this company so I can go out and hang out in the pits and and try to work in a Formula One deal and all those. There's all these offshoots of what I do. It's not necessarily, it's not all just, but I went in the past longevity for myself and one of my partners, very extremely fit. And it's kind of those ideas like, I can tell you my story real quick. I was on History's Greatest Mysteries. And part of that arises, I better get in shape if I'm going to be on camera for a while. So I did that, but I never stopped. And that was part of my journey, is just like, you don't realize that maintaining active it's very important. So I'm doing this. I'm releasing a monthly magazine called the Longevity Almanac. It's going to be at your grocery stores, and it's all based on, a very comfortable, friendly, open view of a life of longevity, of how you can live longer, those kind of things. I mentioned my Untech It company, which is basically bringing you back. You see little kids with the iPad and being pushed around.
It's sad.
So much. It's easy for parents to do. No, out of sight, out of mind. But everything that makes us who we are, you can't stop that. So I'm working on getting the high-tech stuff out of your life on a regular basis, but yet still be able to communicate in emergencies and that kind of thing is very important. How do you do that but not have, it's like, what I don't get is, how do you don't enjoy things when you're just taking videos and pictures of everything. Enjoy it, live in the moment. And you take thousands of pictures, you probably will never go back and look at those anyway. And it's just that we become separated from our world so much. So it's part of that. But then again, I'm kind of like, yeah, but I'm also working the AI world like you wouldn't believe. So I'm just playing both sides of it, not intentionally, but it just kind of came that way. This book not near that. That gem was very interesting. It's called Humation. And it's human evolution with AI in the middle, Humation. And it's about how it could end up by, if we're not careful, separating our society a little bit, and that's what it's all about. I grew up in an area where it was very Native American back in Montana, and unfortunately, a lot of these kids, when they got to be 18, received a big check. A lot of them died, alcohol, drugs, right afterwards. It was a horrible thing, and I kind of think that the way it's being talked about, a universal income because of AI, it sounds elegant on one side, but if you give free money to people that they don't have to do anything, a certain percent are going to go the wrong way. If you've opened the door to that kind of stuff. That's what it's about. Anyway, so that, and just I actually had like 16 companies, so it lists lots of things. But the one that I love the most actually is this idea of eliminating tech from your life, but still having the advantages of technology, but it's not in your life. It's actually like organic. It's a pebble you carry in your pocket. Those kind of things. It's all those. Like my wife just got back and she brought this thing. It's called I've never heard of it. It's called thumb pedal. And in England, when you're nervous, this is a big thing. You rub a little rock. Never heard of it.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Exactly like what I'm built at. It's that natural connection to things.
Yeah.
And so again, I'm excited about that, but I got, that's also a younger part of my life, and I love that part of my life. So there's obviously a little bit of attraction, the way things used to be, whatever. So it's all that thing. So, but I just love what I'm doing. I don't mean to be promoting. I don't, it doesn't matter if somebody.
No, promote, please. Plug.
Well, if that's the case, if you see this, it's AI. Yeah. We're going throughout Texas and Florida. Imagine enough, it's going to be all over Roswell, and then Nevada.
Three people who can promote you.
Yeah.
People be a sponsor.
The worst, my manager and agents and that kind of thing, they do a good job, but it's like I'm a very I don't really have social media, which I should. I don't have. I don't get involved in that stuff, and I need to. And it's just like I always find something else to be doing, and I really need to do some more. For people who want to listen to me, if people want to hear my voice, but I do enjoy. I enjoy talking to people. I actually enjoy meeting in big room, talking, face to face with people, that kind of thing.
Oh.
But
in Midland, and they're wondering if they can get it in stores in Midland.
Ooh, there you go.
It's
actually all in the Woodlands right now. It's going to be in they're working on getting it in the Texas pharmacies in Midland. Eventually it will be. We're going to be. We have interest in. There's lots of restaurants, and it's going to be a thing. But we had it canned, so to speak, and delivered on June 29th. So this is it's brand new, and we're going to do a big thing out in. I'm sorry about that. Something on my phone. They're a big thing out in Roswell. We're going to do a big launch, but we couldn't get it in time. So that whole thing. So now it's fine. Next year's the 80th, so we'll do a huge big thing out there with it.
Well, you come back on, tell us all the new flavors that you guys are gonna have. We'll fly out.
Please.
Right now it's strawberry, banana, and citrus. We'll have a peach. We're gonna have basically, if you remember the old Hawaiian punch flavor like that, the punch flavor, and then all grape on all the rest of them. Just you come out with a few of them every so often, but it's fun. But the idea is it is an energy drink. It's a delivery system. It's a way to get those ingredients to help you age more great. Extension of your life. The whole idea is to live a longer life, and so it has those ingredients, and that's after research of thousands of different things. You find out the best of the best that can affect you, and then ones that can be allowed to be in drink and that kind of thing. So that's where this came from. So the whole idea is that it's not just an energy drink, but you're drinking it for the idea of a longer life. And that is, I mean, and then there's truth to it. It's not just some.
Yeah. It's awesome because our last week's guest was Dacre Stoker talking all about Dracula. So this is the way to explore vampirism without causing any harm.
Vampirism is a fascinating. I loved somebody came up with the idea that it was a virus. I mean, what an elegant way to try to make something, basically the characters and that thing, how it, I just, humans' ability to connect the dots on fun things. I love all that stuff. And, anyway, but I can tell you about some things I probably shouldn't talk about on the show, but yeah, exciting fun things.
We need an after hours show.
Yeah, I know we do. We still really need one for Patreon.
But but no, it's like I said, I would have watched it. Want to see? I'll have to go back and look at that. But I have a certain attraction to that stuff for whatever reason. I have no idea. But fun. And I apologize. I've been talking about everything. Do you want to talk more about the UFO world, about my my connection with it or whatever?
No,
I can talk about anything. I just from where I sit, everybody tells me everything just because they think I know something.
I just have one last question, before we end, unless anybody else does. But I was wondering if your grandfather were alive today to see what was going on and how disclosure is happening. Now, what do you think he would think of the whole?
I think he'd be frustrated. It wasn't just a common talk in the government. And he was honestly, I mean, his job was part of the cover up. I mean, that was part of what he was supposed to do. But I think he'd have thought we evolved to the point where we've gotten past ourselves and there's no reason not to talk honestly about all this kind of thing. I think that on the flip side, he was a ham radio operator. It was a highlight of his life. And when he died before the internet was around, he would have just loved the internet and being able to communicate like through Messenger. He would have just loved all this kind of thing, but he didn't live long enough. But I think he'd be frustrated about humanity's not more openly embracing it. But again, I think, in general, it's our governments that don't, but some foreign governments absolutely embrace Roswell. That's where they make their line in the sand that Roswell happened. Therefore, they have aerial anomaly teams in their air forces because of Roswell, because they believe that was completely true, no question. And then stuff's happened in Argentina and Brazil. I mean, there's all the stories. There's all over the world. France, England. There's China. There's fascinating stories all over the world that are very. I mean, there's a place in Argentina that they have the debris. It's fascinating. They actually have it at their universities. They're studying it. I love talking about it because if you put it under light, it becomes transparent. But
that would make sense why sometimes people see their craft and sometimes they don't. Like they'll just be there and then they're just
gone.
The material disperses light in a way that it becomes transparent. I mean, we can kind of do that now, but this, whatever this was, they didn't realize at first. And someone else said, you know what, I can see right through this. And they actually came to me because they wanted me to compare and contrast the material, how it cut, for everything I knew about the Roswell debris. So governments will do that, or does this line up from what you know about Roswell? So that those conversations, and I love military pilots. I talk to a lot around the world and what they have, and they actually bring their radar stuff. That we're showing this is what happened. This is what we chased this thing. We tried to chase it, and we couldn't. And they go through all the stuff. It's really fascinating. And some governments absolutely they embrace it. They put money actually into it. That Brazil, there's not all of it. A lot of countries in Brazil, some will build a statue, like there was a sighting there, and that's meaningful. And then we need to embrace whatever the sighting was. So they actually build a pillar to it. So it's fun.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that in the next couple years we'll get to that place where we can just talk about all of this as fact rather than just trying to
Right.
come to know that it might make a little uncomfortable, and just there doesn't need to be fear involved. If
No.
everything
And that's the big thing. Like we're not stupid as American public. I think most of us are kind of to the idea that we do believe that there is life that exists somewhere in this universe.
Yeah.
You know, so we're not arrogant in that way, thinking like we're the only game in town, because the universe is so vast. And if there are multi-universes and multiverses, then now we're increasing that number, right? So
It's almost like you don't believe in the technology existing. It's not that you don't believe life exists. You don't believe the technology exists. And I don't know if people actually get to that level of asking themselves why it wouldn't exist. Because really, I mean, just numerically, it doesn't make sense. There's not life. There'd be the chances of not being life the chances are far less than there being life out there. I mean, it doesn't make sense that there wouldn't be life out there. There's in no way sense of the word. And when you look at it that way, it's like, yeah, then you just believe, well, I don't believe in UFOs. Well, you just don't believe the technology exists. It's not you don't believe there's alien life. You just don't believe the technology. And I think people were truthful of themselves. You'd have a really, really hard time trying to establish that we're the only thing in the universe. I don't know how many. I don't think I've ever ran into somebody who didn't actually believe that. And so at that point, it's just it's technology. That's it.
Grandparents. But from my background, I would say that it's the religious sectors that are ones that struggle the most, and I think that's why it takes open discussions to get them warmed up to things. To be like, you don't need to be afraid.
You don't have to have
come and attack you. Like it's not
right. It's not
happening.
You can have both. Yes. I mean, we're not saying there isn't a God, Yeah. You can have both. If you want to say God created the universe, then he created not just this life, but other lives.
It's anything that adds to his power. Exactly.
So you're not special then.
It's grace. And it's like, I agree with it. My dad was, I mean, he instilled out with us. We grew up Catholic. Yeah. Deep French in Louisiana, so a lot of Catholic down there, I guess. But he absolutely left the door open that this was God's creation. And I think there's something much greater than us out there, and that none of this is by accident by any means, and that we're part of that. But it's also, I mean, I absolutely believe there's room for for those beliefs, and that there's again, you're limiting the awesomeness of what that is of God. And that's like, a good friend, again, he brings the idea that you're much better off being what I think is agnostic, where you disagree, you don't understand. That's the truest you could possibly be. You don't absolutely know. And you have faith, but that is truth. When you say you're absolutely no chance there was, it's kind of, well, it's one of those things like you can't know. Yeah. And I think it's a mistake, but that's me.
Yeah. So this has been so great.
I know. Yeah. I know we can keep talking about this forever, but
I know. Yeah, we should probably start letting our viewers and listeners start winding down too. Jesse, is there anything that you really want our folks to take with them from tonight?
Well, it's not UFO driven, but it's just love life. Be happy. It's just like, it's all there for you. And it's so easy to get you. And when you get to that point, everything else is easier to get to. When you get comfortable with yourself and where you're at, it's so much easier to get all of this in there. And like experiencers, why did that happen to you? There was some connection somewhere that something happened that put you in that position, whatever it was. And there had to be an openness. There had to be something, whatever it is. But I think that you need to get to a good place, and you get to that good place, and all of it starts making sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent.
That's a beautiful way to end it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. This has been fabulous.
This wonderful, Jesse. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me on your show, and I hope you got what you wanted. I don't know. I get arousal as much as we should have, but yeah, I just like anytime.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back.
You for more information anytime.
Yes.
This has been
and the cat's there.
Leonard's here. Yeah. Sisters, is there anything you would like to share with our extended family before we head off to bed?
I do want to give a quick shout out real quick, just because this was very, very cool. I won a giveaway online, and this was a beautiful package from, I don't want to mess it up, let me see, Nightshade Black, who has been viewing some of our episodes. Thank you so much for this Medusa package that I got. Beautiful engravings, hand-rolled candles, thrifted teacup. Everything in here was so beautiful and absolutely gorgeously put together, handcrafted with love, you can tell. This altar set was very, very cool. I love Medusa, and I love how many creative people there are out there. This was just something I randomly happened to fall upon her page, or their page. I don't know who runs it exactly, but very grateful for this free gift that was given to me. And I wanted to thank everyone who joined us tonight from my CE5 groups. I really appreciate having you here, asking your questions, and just supporting us on our fun endeavors. Thank you again, Jesse, for joining us. This was really just
thank you to AG and his readers and viewers.
Yes, thank you all for
everyone.
Yeah, so next
and
week
you have a Leonard.
We have a Leonard. That's just because he's trying to walk on the keyboard, and I don't want this to go before we have to go. But yeah, don't forget to come back here next week. We will have some of AG's work to share. I might even go digging for some of Jesse's stuff. You never know. We'll see if we can.
Got someone who reads.
Oh no! But yeah, everybody else, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Please do not forget to like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. The website is live. The website is live. It will continue to be under construction. So if you look at it this week and then you look at it next week and it looks different, you're not on a different page. We've just gone in and done some playing. So
we're working on magic. We're trying at least.
Yes. So it's HallowedHearthPodcast.com.
And
go check us out.
Yep. We're cool. We have cool stuff like the cool kids.
Like the cool kids. We are the cool kids. But yeah, you guys, thank you so much again. My sisters, this is always the greatest night of the week. Thank you for being on this adventure with me.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you guys have anything else?
I'm good.
All right, then we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Thank you.